Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me this morning. I hope everybody enjoyed a nice, long, relaxing weekend. I know I did. So I hope everybody got to, spend great times with family and friends, and just enjoying the long weekend, and in some cases, well deserved, right? I can't believe it's December 1st already. Oh my goodness. And Patty Cakes joins us this morning. She says, "Good Grand Rising founder, Grand Rising to you." And let's get into our Kids Corner video for this morning.
A 6-year-old boy had everything money could buy but still felt empty inside. Meet Alder Montega, whose life changed forever with one simple question. One morning, while looking down from his penthouse, Alder noticed something that made him question everything. A little girl his age was helping her grandmother with grocery bags. Alder couldn't understand why a girl his age was working so hard instead of playing with expensive toys like him. His heart stirred with questions he'd never asked before. For the first time in his life, Alder left his golden cage. He put on his simplest clothes and walked down to meet the mysterious girl who had captured his imagination. "Hi, I'm Alder. Can I help you carry those bags?" Luna's eyes widened in amazement. No rich kid had ever wanted to help her before. "I'm Luna," she replied with the biggest smile. As they worked together, Alder discovered something amazing. Luna wasn't sad despite having so little. She was happy because sharing made her heart feel full, not her closet. Alder learned the secret that day. The richest person isn't who has the most toys, but who shares their heart the most. True wealth comes from making others smile. True wealth isn't measured by what you own, but by the joy you create when you share and help others. Sometimes the richest person in the room is the one giving the most away.
Yeah, and that's something that we need to remember. Love isn't love unless it's given, right? And that's something we can definitely hold on to as adults. So let's have our, I'd like to call it our morning mantra, how to honor God with our body. So, God, please guard my mind and thoughts. God, help me to fix my mind on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, protect my ears and help me to listen to your voice. God, help me be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please protect my mouth and help me speak life. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs and help me to honor you with purity. God, help me honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet as I walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. So, with that, again, just a reminder to everybody, yeah, honor God with your body. And we're going to keep doing this every single morning so that we remember who we need to honor with our body. And when we're doing that, we're fine. And this morning, we are going to hear from Conscious Outlaw in our sports segment. So here we go. And let me bring Conscious up here to the stage. Good morning, Conscious. How are you?
Good morning, founder. Good morning,
Good
Unfiltered Vision
morning.
News family. How you all doing this Monday?
Good. How are you? I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I did. I missed y'all last week. Had a little technical difficulties, but I'm back, of course.
Okay.
So, we're gonna focus. I'm gonna focus on basically football today because it's December 1st, and football's shaping up division leaders and wild card standings, and a touch on a little bit of college football. And also our brother Sador Sanders, his debut was last week. I missed that, but he also had the game this week. So of course the AFC East leaders have been staying pretty much the same. The Patriots, Steelers, Colts, and Broncos. NFC East, it's been a little bit shifting. The East has the Eagles at one, The Bears have crept up to be leading the pack in NFC North. They are surprised this year. The Bucks have been holding strong in the South, and then of course the Rams in the West. Now, the wild card teams are very interesting because you had the 49ers, Detroit, Cowboys, Panthers, and Seahawks all fighting for those wild card spots for the first weekend of playoff football at the end of the month. So we got to watch these. We're in week. We have 5 weeks to go. So it's going to be every game is very crucial, very pivotal. Denver also they're looking really good too. So those teams you have to watch out for. And in the AFC, the wild cards contenders are the Chargers, the Chargers, the Bills, Dolphins, and Ravens. And so we have a lot of football ahead of us. So I want to go to talk about Shador Sanders today. He started his first game against the Raiders and won that last week. Then he had a not so good showing against the 49ers yesterday. But he did have a good statistical game, but he still hasn't been able to prepare and play with the ones for a full season. So we'll see how this shapes up. It looks like the coach is going to give him a chance for the rest of the year. So we're just going to be praying and hoping that he gets his shot because him and his family very God fearing, very honorable people, and they get a bad rap on a lot of things. So we're gonna make sure we keep supporting him through the end of the year. And he has a crucial, well, I won't say crucial matchup, but the number one draft pick, Cam Ward, and him will be facing off next week. And it was interesting. Cam Ward is the guy that has like he was the prototypical humble quarterback that everybody thought was pro material, but Shador slid all the way to the fifth round. But now they're facing each other with the Titans with like a 1-11 record and the Browns with like a 3-8 record. So they're both on bad teams. So it'd probably be a good matchup to see their actual true skills. And I think switching over to college, they went over to college, college football bracket. I'm be going really focusing on that next week because it's rounding up the championship weeks coming out. Same top 10 teams: Ohio State at 10, Ohio State at 1, and Alabama's at 10. And a few teams been sliding up and down in the middle. So I'm not like I said, I'll focus on that next week because the brackets and the championship games will be coming up. So that's all I have for today. Did you have anything for me?
Well, I want to say I'm a Michigan fan, and my husband is an Ohio State fan, right? So this is always a fun time of year because it always comes down to that game. And okay, here's the sad part. I was really rooting for Ohio State, and here's why, right? Even though I am my the whole thing is go blue, that because they have been undefeated all year, I was like, you guys have to stay undefeated, right? Because you're national champions, number one. You've got to, you know what I'm saying? You have to beat Michigan. Like there's no, hey, let's, be easy on them. And mainly because even if Michigan won, it's not necessarily going to mean that they would win the playoffs, right? They're just not that team this year. They're not that strong, as it was proven in how they lost to Ohio State. So I'm really glad that Ohio State won and that they're moving on to the championship round. It's just logistics for me.
Yeah, that's one of the most classic rivalries. I watch it every year too.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, Michigan's been dominating, right? I mean, to the point where it literally was a headline. They were like, is Ohio State going to lose again? And it's like, they can't lose. And then I was, like I said, my husband was looking at me going, okay, I know you're a Michigan fan. Why are you rooting for my team?
Yeah, I want also speaking of that, we need to be it might be a little bit dark horse, but Indiana has been playing really good. They've been playing
I
really
know.
good in the Big Ten. So that might be something we got to keep our eyes out for. So the Big Ten is really showing up this year.
12 and the two 12-0 teams going head to head. Like it is going to be Clash of the Titans. I'm looking forward to that game.
Well, thank you for having me. And like I said, I'll have a little bit more in depth next week with the college football and the rankings.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us here with your segment on our sports segment. Thank you so much, Conscious.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Yeah. So sports doing well. Again, yes. I know there's probably going to be some Michigan fans out there like, oh, you're a traitor. I'm not a traitor. I'm just saying I need a winning household. Okay. And Michigan, you're not doing it this year. Like I need y'all to figure it out. Okay. I really need Michigan to figure it out because you have the tools, you have the resources. What's going on? The dominance that used to be there in Michigan, it's just not there. And I get it. You guys have lost some seniors, you've lost some players to the NFL, and they've done really well, obviously, going on, but you're just not stacking your bench appropriately. And that's just my opinion. That's just an outside opinion. Because if you're wanting to stay dominant, you have to make sure that your bench is just as good as your starters, right? So those trade outs, you're not trading good for bad, you're trading good for good. Just saying, from coach's perspective. And I did play football, so I understand the game. Just now we're going to move on into some more interesting news. So so this came up over the weekend because, my husband and I, we have different conversations. But the first one we're going to talk about is Ilhan Omar. Oh, and Patty Cake says, I love the sports segment. Yes. And hey, I want to say the Chargers is your team, right? I think you talked about the Chargers last time, Patty Cakes. So they're doing well. Just saying. I hate what was happening with Herbert yesterday. I don't know what was going on yesterday, but awesome teams. So to get into the news, there is some news that Jasmine Crockett brought forth about Christine Nome. We're going to get into that one second. But the first one I want to get into is with Ilhan Omar. And there's been a lot of talk about, she should be removed from Congress. She married her brother. I mean, the president wants her deported. Like, everybody's just like it on fire. Now, what I want you guys to understand as an audience is this whole situation about her marrying her brother isn't new. This actually was brought about when she initially came into Congress like 6-7 years ago. They brought this up, but it wasn't investigated the way it should have been. I'm just saying, because I'm gonna show you guys the marriage timeline so you guys can understand it with me and be like, huh? Like talking your head to the side, like what? Like how did okay. So that's the allegation. The allegation is she married her brother so that he could become a citizen. Now she came over here at 8. Apparently she got naturalized when she was 20 years old. And so after that, she was married to someone, then married to her brother, and then she married the first person that she was with. But again, we're going to go through the timeline so that you guys can see that. But let me start off with this video from Fox News, and this is from 6 years ago.
Mother says that her husband was stolen from her, and she says the perpetrator was none other than squad member Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Chief correspondent, he's a news correspondent, that is, Trace Gallagher, has more on this friction in marriage.
Brian, court documents obtained by our corporate cousin, the New York Post, say that D.C. political consultant Tim Minette met Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar while he worked for her. Apparently, Omar paid Minette and his E Street Consulting Group about $230,000 through her campaign for things like fundraising, digital communications, and travel expenses. And the Daily Caller News Foundation now says a conservative government ethics watchdog is looking into whether Omar used campaign funds to pursue the affair. Meantime, Dr. Beth Minette says her husband told her back in April that he was romantically involved with Ilhan Omar, with court records adding this, quote, although devastated by the betrayal and deceit that preceded his abrupt declaration, plaintiff told defendant that she loved him and was willing to fight for the marriage. Defendant, however, told her that was not an option for him. The Minettes lived together for 6 years before marrying in 2012. They have a 13-year-old son, but Dr. Minette says even before her husband told her about the affair, he had already introduced their son to Representative Omar. And in court papers, Dr. Minette argued that her husband's decision, quote, put his son in harm's way by taking him out in public with Rep. Omar, who at that time had garnered a plethora of media attention along with death threats, one rising to the level of arresting the would-be known assassin that same week. And because of those actions, Dr. Minette is now seeking primary custody of their son. Remember, Ilhan Omar has also been accused of marrying her biological brother so he could obtain American citizenship. Neither Omar nor Tim Minette has yet commented. Brian.
Yeah, Congress not back in session, but the action has not stopped. Congresswoman Omar is still in the news. Trace Gallagher, we'll talk to you a little bit later.
Okay, now that was from 6 years ago. Okay, so I'm just like letting you guys know the timeline. Now she's currently married to this individual named Minette. Okay, so that's kind of where we stand right now. Now I'm going to go back to a year ago on Fox News and what they said about Ilhan Omar, and then I'm going to go to a third video that's going to break some of this stuff down a little bit more.
Governor Ron DeSantis ripping Congresswoman Ilhan Omar for her so-called Somalia first speech over the weekend.
Cheryl Casoni from our sister network Fox Business is here with more. Quite the controversy.
January 27th, so she makes these remarks, and it's been really picked up. It's gone viral because of her comments about putting Somalia first. And to be clear, she emigrated here. Well, she left Somalia in 1991. She spent 4 years in a Kenyan refugee camp, and then she comes to the United States, and here she is. But in this speech, here's what she said and what people are criticizing her. For as long as I am in the U.S. Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopia or others. Sleep in comfort knowing that I am here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the U.S. system. The woman you sent to Congress working day and night to protect your interests. Well, Governor Ron DeSantis responded to that ad, and he made it a little shorter. He said expel from Congress, denaturalize, and deport. Like, who do you care about here, Ilhan Omar? Anyway, she fired back at DeSantis and said no nation state can survive if its states start to get involved in land lease negotiations with other countries without the consent of the federal government. Somalis in Somalia and in the diaspora united in that effort, and I stand in solidarity with them. No amount of harassment and lies will ever change that. So look, I mean, there's a water dispute between Ethiopia and Somalia, but it's again, you're here in the United States now. Yeah. You're serving in Congress. Mm-hmm.
Do your job here.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
What matters to you?
You work on behalf of the Somalis. And the fact that she would even say that she's going to work from inside the system, that should frighten everybody. We don't want anybody working for any foreign country with inside our system. Mm-hmm. It's frightening.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I mean,
so this isn't something that, it's where her loyalties lie, right? And I think that's where everybody's at right now. You said it. You said you were going to work for Somalia from within the United States. Like, that's not necessarily what people would consider treason. It's not treasonous. I would, in my opinion, it more along the lines of it's more like espionage, in my opinion, because you know the inner workings and secrets of the United States. Okay. You could share information from within to another foreign entity. And you're already saying that you're going to put them first. And this is just allegedly, and that's just my opinion of her stance. Like, I'm working from the interior to prop up another country. Ma'am. Look, you might not like DeSantis, but he's not wrong. He's not wrong saying expel and deport immediately. She shows a huge danger to our country doing what she's doing. And in her opinion, she's right, because nobody has checked her and called her on it. Now, this third video, it's going to get into a little bit more of the marriages and all these things that she's been involved in. And again, she's still married to the third person, right? The third gentleman that she's Merriweather and Only Facts. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're posting the stream. And OM3667 says that is high treason. Gotta get rid of her. Look, trust me, there's a lot of people on that bandwagon. But let's check out this video.
Our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually.
Now I almost pause right there, because the man that she's married to, like, he is Mr. America. Okay, glasses, everything, just white dude. Okay, and anybody out there who's Caucasian in our audience who's white, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not nothing against y'all, but I'm just saying, white supremacy. She always talks about white supremacy, ma'am. The man that you're married to, he's white. At last I checked, yeah, it's a white dude. But let's continue.
Causing most of the deaths within this country.
Will you condemn the Hamas flag that was flown outside the U.S. Congress last Saturday during Free Palestine?
And this person right here, that's her man. This is the current husband, y'all. This is the white supremacist that she's married to. Sharon.
Protest?
I condemn the smug that's on your face.
So you don't want to condemn the Hamas flag?
Oh, condemn your smug face.
All right, thank you.
All right, guys, before I get into the introduction, I got to comment on those videos. First thing, the guy that's with her in the second one, that's her new husband after she married her brother and got a divorce, and he's a white man. So hypocrisy knows no bounds with this woman. But before we get to that, we need you to hit that like button, comment, and share this out to everybody, because we really appreciate it. And also, guys, Ilhan Omar, information's come out when it comes to her documents, marriage documents with her brother. First thing, this stuff's been shut off to the American public, and now we got some information about that, and it's been disclosed and released.
You know, her point in the first video, I just got a comment on it too, that white people are killing more than anyone else. That is such a stupid point.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's like me saying in Europe, white people kill more than anybody else. It's probably because it's full of white people. Or me saying, you know, black people in Africa kill more people than anybody else. Yeah, it's because majority of people in Africa are black.
And when you look at the U.S., it's like 65, 70% white. So I don't know what point she's making.
She's not making a point. She's just trying to, I think, gaslight people. All right, guys. Now we're going to go to the marriage certificate and also the application for the marriage certificate, where she got married to her brother in 2009. All right, here they are. We'll go ahead and take a look at the marriage license. As you can see, the name on top, that's her half-brother. Here's Ilhan Omar right here. Down here on the second line, when it's full legal name. Their addresses. She is the bride. He is the groom. And then you have their signatures down here at the bottom. Okay. Now, here's the marriage certificate. Happened on February 12th, 2009. Here's his signature at the top. Signature, her signature's right here. And then you have where it took place at, the marriage. And then you have right here the witnesses. There you go.
Just incredible. I mean, look at, I understand why she would do it, to help her brother. I understand the argument, but it's wrong. Matt, explain to everybody how many felonies she committed.
At least 3. You know, firstly, immigration fraud. Number 2 is also falsifying documents. When it comes to marriage document, that's a felony. And then you also have tax fraud. But here's the thing: whenever you do immigration fraud, and you are an immigrant yourself, and you just became naturalized, that actually makes it where they could take your naturalization away from you and deport you.
And we all know that's what should happen. This woman is on every media channel as often as she can, wanting to change America into Somalia.
All right, now we're going to go to this next video where Benny Johnson is talking to Laura Bulbert about this, and he caught on this before we did, and I'm glad he did, because this is an interesting subject about whether or not Congress could do anything about this. Because if you look at it, they went after George Santos. He wasn't even convicted yet. They threw him out of Congress, and I'm like, this right here. She committed at least 3 felonies I could count, and she is still in the House. I think it's time for them to actually, the Republicans, grow a backbone and vote her out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I got I'll break a little news on this. I'm pretty close with a lot of people at Homeland Security, and allegedly there's a considerable amount, demonstrable amounts of evidence that the government has that proves this. And perhaps they're like trying to figure out which way to go around it. I know it's got to be a touchy issue, obviously, but what do you say to this, Congresswoman?
A little too touchy for family, but in Congress, it's going to be really difficult to have a real investigation like we should. Look, Nancy Mace bravely put a privileged resolution on the floor condemning the remarks made by Ilhan Omar. And Ilhan Omar was trying to troll everyone in the process leading up to the vote. And she just simply wanted to censure her. She said you should not be on the Foreign Affairs Committee with the rhetoric that you have. And then, of course, it went against our Congressional Code of Ethics that we agree to when we are signed in as members of Congress. And we
you have a code of ethics. You have a code of ethics that says you can't marry your brother.
And here's the thing. I didn't mean to pause it at that point about marrying a brother, but anyway, here's the thing. I think it was like 3 or 4 Republicans that voted to not censor her over just her speech against the U.S.
Yeah, what a shame.
That might need to be put in, but we definitely have a.
I think that's in the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Our Bible.
Yes.
And anyway, you had Republicans block that. You had Republicans table this motion.
Now, the other thing that I wanted to bring up is when she made that speech about, how she was going to protect Somalia and how she was working the inside, she was not in the halls of Congress when she made that statement. She was at an event. And there's no protection of the speech and debate clause. And I don't know why anybody hasn't brought that up, right? You're talking about taking care of and propping up another country and admitting that you're doing it from the inside the United States. Okay, so you're clearly not in alignment with the Constitution. You are not in alignment with American values. Speech and debate clause doesn't protect you. You can't just say whatever you want to when you're outside. And that's a lot of these congressmen and women, and they forget about that part. And it's up to us as the American public. Again, we need to demand that they get their jobs done.
Maybe some making excuses for the First Amendment. The First Amendment doesn't protect you from consequences. And when you have a code of ethics that you are using your office to absolutely defy, there needs to be accountability there. And, maybe some were just covering their own backs to keep other stories down.
I agree with her. I think this is a perfect example of laws need to change when it comes to the people we elect into office, and it needs to go more towards what you have to do to become president. And first thing you have to do is be a citizen of the United States and be born in the United States. In my opinion, that needs to be in every single election and every single office in the land of the United States. I think you have to be born in the United States. These people that are naturalized, a lot of them still have affinity for their old country. Some of them even have loyalty to it. And in my opinion, people with dual citizenship and also with that aren't that are just naturalized Americans that are not born in the United States should not be holding political office, in my opinion.
I can't believe we even have to talk about it. Look she's a congresswoman who's committed a minimum of 3 felonies. Look, it used to be, you know, if you committed a felony in office, you went to jail. So, you know what? This tells me how sick Washington, D.C. is and how much trouble we're actually in, that they can't even hold this piece of you-know-what accountable.
I don't know the reasons why people were voting to table this motion, but to have an actual investigation, I don't know if we have a strong enough Republican Party at this time to actually commit to that and get it done. But this is someone who absolutely should be investigated. I think she should be sitting in prison or at least sent back to Somalia, rather than George Santos being put in solitary confinement for telling a fib. You know,
and she needs to get up off of that. Santos committed fraud, okay, and perjured himself. It was more than a fib, ma'am. This is why he got what he got. And Sassy Lady, thank you so much for reposting the stream and joining us this morning.
Years back, this is you know, that was gross that he was expelled for.
Here's the crazy thing about George Santos and also Tina Peterson. He got 7 years. Tina Peterson got 9 years. And P. Diddy got 4 years. That tells you everything you need to know about the justice system in the United States and how it's slanted to help liberals and hurt and try to destroy Republicans.
I thought that was interesting how he brought that up, because if we're going to go race-wise, right, Santos, you know, not sure how he identifies with his ethnicity, but he's obviously not Black. And then you got Tim Peters, that's a Caucasian woman. And P. Diddy, he's like, P. Diddy only got 4 years, and that's a Black man. Typically, Black men get longer sentences. What he did leave out is the investigation time and the amount of years they wanted to give him, because they wanted to give him over 40 years. And it was cut down to 4 because he had already been pretty much incarcerated for 4 years. So technically it's like 8. So he wasn't just walking the planet. So they kind of left that part out. He was sentenced to 4 because he was already incarcerated serving time. Just saying. Oh, and Sassy Lady says, Santos has been pardoned. Perhaps money talks. Ooh, okay, right? P. Diddy has not gotten pardoned. Okay, but Santos has been. And thank you so much for giving us that information, Sassy Lady. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the reason they're doing it is to sow dissension and have different levels of animosity and hatred within the population of America. It's sickening.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to agree with Laura Bulbert on, the Republican Party is weak. She's right. They're not going to be willing to do this because they don't want to be, they're afraid of going on MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News and be called racist.
Yeah, well, you know what bothers me about that? Fox, MSNBC, CNN, all of them together get so many less views and so much less attention than all of the channels everyone listening to my voice watches on YouTube here. It's incredible. They have no power except for they're backed by the government. That's a problem.
They're also backed by the news organizations, by corporations that put their commercials on there as well. Right. The same corporations that donate to Republicans and Democrats. That's the reason they do it. Not only that, there's a lot of high propensity voters that watch those stations as well. That's the reason that they are concerned about it.
From Congress and the charges that he got. I'm advocating for Santos's pardon, and I would much rather see Ilhan Omar having consequences for her conduct rather than him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it very much does reveal the soul of a person, how you treat somebody who's deceased. Like, that tells you everything. Like
Yes.
how she's treated Charlie Kirk after his horrific death at the hands of a left-wing radical is sickening. And just a post here from U.S. Immigration Services: marriage fraud is a crime. They're just reminding us here. They've sent a number of posts, a number of bangers actually out about this. I don't know if they're trying to send a message. I don't know. Report marriage fraud here.
Interesting. I think we need to make some
Curious.
reports, Benny.
Okay.
You have quite
All
the
right.
following. I think we could get a few
Yeah.
reports made on this one.
I guess we'll see. Thank you, Congresswoman.
I got one thing to say about all of this. I want people who commit crimes put in prison, from Omar to Brennan. Okay, anybody from the last administration, anybody who's guilty of crimes, I don't even care if they're within the statute of limitations. I want them prosecuted. And I wish Trump would literally direct his Department of Justice to get on this. Look at, she committed multiple felonies. She needs to be arrested and deported. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. The other thing else I want to focus on is her loyalty towards Somalia itself. And I got a video where the president of Somalia shows up in Minnesota and she says, "This is our president." Let's go and check out the video.
caawa aan fursad u helay madaxweynaha Soomaaliya madaxweyne Xasan Sheikh Maxamuud inaan maanta ku soo dhaweyno Minneapolis. Aniga iyo madaxweynaha special relationship aan qabnaa. Aniga adeeraan ugu wacaa, asigana gabarteeyu idahaa. madaxweyne sidii qof kasta uu yiri mininkaaga waaye ku soo dhawow Minneapolis. aad iyo aad aan ugu faraxsanahay in maanta madaxweynaheena aad tahay. Soomaaliya dadka meeshaan wada joogo dhan waa gurigooda, annaga ma dareensannihin in ay naga tahay meel naga fog. Soomaaliya wadnaheenay ku nooshahay, qalbigeenay ku jirtaa, maalin kasta aan ka fikirnaa Soomaaliya.
You know, the odd thing about that is if she was in Somalia, she would be oppressed and basically a second-class citizen. Well, maybe not though, because she's rich, because she came here, and rich people get treated different everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that right there, that video shows you her loyalty to the United States right there. And the reason why she needs to be investigated and deported, in my opinion, because she has no loyalty to the United States. She doesn't love the United States. She came here because her father was a general in Somalia, and she came here because the government got overthrown by the people and their lives were in danger. That's the reason they came here, and the United States took them in. The thing is, the very person that she's welcoming there is the very person that probably would have went after her father and her. And she's shown more loyalty to him as president of the United States than she ever did Biden or Trump. All right, guys, this is the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed. Please hit that like button, comment, and share this out to everybody.
That was American Patriots, and that's where I got that video from on YouTube. And we have a comment from Viscerect1. He says, Trump is a criminal, and that's your opinion. And that same criminal is actually challenging birthright citizenship right now, which is criminal activity that's been going on for a few centuries. So I'm going to move on and go ahead and get into the background work that I did on Ilhan Omar. So I asked to pull the marriage certificates associated with Ilhan Omar, and I will show you those marriage certificates because I know they were kind of tiny on the screen. So the marriage certificates are public records in Minnesota, but they are not really available in digitized form, blah, blah, blah. So below is a summary of Ilhan Omar's known marriages, right, drawn from those reports, including references to certificates were mentioned. So here's the timeline of her marriages. So her first marriage was a faith-based, non-legal marriage. Okay, so there was no paperwork initially when she got married. So it was almost like how should I say, when people oh my goodness, I'm looking for the word, when they live together for so long and they hold themselves out as common law. There we go. So it was more of a common law marriage, faith based, but we'll just, for legality purposes, we'll just say common law, right? So, and he's also, so is Ahmed Hirsi, also known as Ahmed Ablisdan Adin. He never comes up in the conversation. It's always the brother that comes up. Okay, and thank you, April Showers. Yes, common law. So entered into 2002 under Islamic tradition. A marriage license application was filed on September 30th of 2002 in Hennepin County, Minnesota, but it was not legally finalized or recorded as a civil marriage. They had 3 children together, born in 2003, 2006, and 2012, and then they separated in 2008. Timeline. So you had babies in 2003, 2006, and 12, but you separated in 2008. So you separated in 2008, and then y'all still had a baby together 4 years later. Nobody finds that suspicious? Okay. So before reconciling in 2011, okay? So they separated in 2008, then they reconciled, then they had the baby. All right. The union was later legalized. Okay. So now we're going to get into the person that they said that's her brother that she got married to. So again, we're still looking at timelines. Okay. So she was legally married to Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi. This is who they're saying is her brother. Okay. And they were married in 2009 in Hennepin County, Minnesota. The marriage certificate from Hennepin County confirms this date and lists Elmi as a British citizen. So he was not a naturalized citizen of America, British citizen. Okay. The application used an address in Columbia Heights, Minnesota. They separated in 2011. Okay. So she married this person in 2009. They separated in 2011. She reconciled with the first dude in 2011. Timelines. Just say. Okay. With a faith-based divorce. How do you get a faith-based divorce and you had a legal marriage? Okay. But did not legally divorce until a petition was filed in 2017. So she was still legally married to this person till 2017. But she reconciled with this person in 2011. I'm just saying. Interesting, right? Oh, sincerely, Lawless, thank you so much for joining us this morning. She says, good morning, founder. Good morning to you too. Okay, we're still cooking here. All right. Okay, so I hope y'all are following me on this one. So the marriage was officially dissolved December 4th, 2017. That's a key date to remember. This marriage has been subject to unsubstantiated allegations of immigration fraud. Claims Elmi is her brother, but no evidence has been confirmed in official investigations or court recordings. Now, there has been, I've come across videos where they said they've done DNA tests, DNA matches up, that's brother. Here's my thing, brother or not, when you marry somebody to make them a U.S. citizen, there's still a length of time you're supposed to be married with them. How are you married to this guy in 2009? You separated from this person in 2008. Conveniently, you separate with a faith-based divorce. She goes back to the first dude and they have a kid in 2012, and then you legally get divorced in 2017, which means you had a marriage that was off the books, the faith one, and then the legal one to people who are allegedly saying is your brother is on the books. You divorce the person on the books to go back to the last person, that's the faith-based person, that's the father of your 3 children. Okay. But the marriage that you're actually in, you're not living with this person. And you have to actually be married to somebody for a certain amount of time, which is 7 to 8 years. So that that person's status as a citizen can be cemented here in the United States. That's why you didn't file. That's why you didn't divorce this person until 2017. So that person can get their legal status while you went back to the father of your children in 2011. That's fraud, period. Whether people were married on paper, divorced on paper, it's fraudulent. Because you reconciled in 2011. How can you be reconciled to the father of your children while being married to somebody else and you don't get divorced from that person until 2017? Timelines. Now, the alleged marriage to Ahmed Hirsi, then she turns around. Now, remember I said, remember December. She turned around and got married to the first person, the father of her children, in January of 2018. So, like 30 days, she got married to the first person, right? Shortly after the Ilmi divorce. One report listed that the date of January 1st, but the Hepton certificate aligns with January 5th. They divorced legally on November 5th, 2019. After filing on October 7th, 2019, citing irrevocable breakdown. So during their legal separation from Ilmi, okay, I know it's hard to follow, 2011 to 2017. Omar and Hirsi filed joint federal tax returns for 2014 and 2015. She later amended it to correct. So this is messy. Look, messy. The timelines are horrible. So you divorce the person that's allegedly your brother. And I keep using that word allegedly because we have to totally confirm it. So you allegedly, then you go back to your first marriage person, right? And you officially marry that person in 2018. And then almost like a year later, year and a half later, year and 10 months, you divorce that person legally? Why did you even go back to get married in the first place, right? In 2019, after you filed on October 17th for irrevocable breakdown. Okay, irretrievable. Is it irretrievable breakdown? Citing irretrievable breakdown? That's right. But anyway, it was a breakdown in the relationship. So this was during legal separation from Elmi, right? So there's 2 men involved here on the timeline. Now, how are you filing tax returns in 14 and 15 with Hirsi, who's the first baby daddy? That's the father of her children because her and Elmi did not have children when you were supposedly married to somebody else legally. So you're legally married to somebody else, but you're filing taxes with the person that is the father of your children. Yeah. I'm like, this is all kinds of fraud. I'm sorry. You need to be expelled from Congress and you need to be deported, period. Because you later amended it to correct it to what? To the first person, to the Elmi person, and not the Heresy person? Because obviously you should have been filing taxes with this person because you didn't Look, it's messy. And then, wait, we're not done. Okay, so she gets a divorce, 2019, November 5th. That's a good date to remember. Then she gets married to Tim Minette, March 11th of 2020. Like, ma'am, you're busy and messy. So you marry this person who was, working with you and when your campaign and stuff in DC. The marriage was solemnized, so no officiant required under DC law. So basically, they just went to the courthouse. If you can just say it like that. And the certificate was obtained in the Moultrie Courthouse. Okay, with the ceremony held by a nearby garden. Minette, a political consultant, converted to Islam prior to the wedding. This union followed allegations of an affair in 2019, which Omar denied at the time. Now, you saw in the video that I showed how the wife of Mr. Minette was like, I'm willing to work through this, affair that you've had with this woman, and we can still salvage our marriage. She was willing. He said he didn't want to do that. So he walked away. So he had an affair, he walked away. All I'm saying is the timeline is messy because she divorced somebody in November 2019 and you married somebody in March 2020. There's a lot of overlap. That's all I'm saying. Because how are you in a relationship? Look, you're busy and you're messy and you committed fraud. Just the tax thing alone. How are you married to somebody and you put on your income taxes, your federal tax returns, okay, for 14 and 15, and it's the father of your children on that tax return, when it should be the current person that you were married to on that tax return, and then you later amended it? You know what you're doing the first time. That's not on autopilot. What are we talking about? It's messy. Okay? That's all I can say. So it goes over accessing records. I got what I need. So I said there's still overlap in the relationships. So I said, was Ilmi a U.S. citizen when they got married? No. Ahmed Nur Said Ilmi was not a U.S. citizen at the time of his marriage to Ilhan Omar on February 12, 2009. So why were you marrying this person? Is the question. Now, public records from the Hepburn County marriage certificate and Omar's own statements describe him as a British citizen, specifically a British Somali. He held UK citizenship and was residing in Minnesota at the time, but there is no evidence he had US citizenship or even permanent residency prior to the marriage. So he's just here, random, and you're marrying this person? Like, it's so messy. And Outlaw says there was a recent article put out yesterday about Somalian immigrants and their massive fraud and also political funding. Oh, yeah, I've been on that. Like all the stuff going on in Minnesota. It's just a mess. Thank you so much for bringing that up. If you've got any articles, send them to me because this is messy. Okay, so the citizenship notation, the marriage application and certificate lists Ilmi's nationality as British, aligning with reports from the Associated Press, Star Tribune, and fact checks by Snopes and PolitiFact. Omar herself confirmed this in a 2016 statement. I entered into a relationship with a British citizen, Ahmed Nur Said Ilmi, and married him legally in 2009. How are you marrying him legally? He's not even naturalized. Did he even have a visa, green card? Like he just plopped up in the United States. You're like, oh, this is so wonderful to do this. Stop that. It's gross. So immigration context. So allegations of marriage fraud often stem from claims that Omar, a naturalized citizen since 2000, wed Elmi to set him obtain U.S. immigration benefits, such as a green card and visa spousal sponsorship. Yeah. However, no official investigations, including by Minnesota's authorities or federal agencies, have confirmed any such fraud or that Elmi ever pursued or received U.S. citizenship through the marriage. Okay, so Elmi reportedly returned to UK after their separation in 2011, and divorce filings in 2017 noted his residence in London. So again, from 2011, 2017, he goes back to the UK. She goes back to the first person that she was with because they reconciled in 2011. Again, there's all this overlap, but you're legally married to somebody, even if they're in the UK, you're still legally married to that person. Then you divorce the UK person to get married to the father of your children, and you're only married to that person a little over a year, and in March of 2020 you get married to my ex. I'm just saying. Now this says there's no overlaps in marriages. Yes, there is. I'm talking about overlaps in relationship. I'm not talking, even I guess the way I didn't put the question, I'm like, how is all of this stuff happening? Because you got, I mean, you got to be involved with somebody. You just 30 days, like, hey, let's do this. Like, I'm just saying. To address your note on relationship overlap, Omar's prior union with Ahmed Hirsi was a faith-based, non-legal arrangement. So they're not even counting this dude. He's just a rando, even though he's the father of all three of her children. Okay. An arrangement from 2002 with a license application that was never finalized. Okay. So thus she was legally single when marrying Elmi. And I get that she was. I'm just talking about relationship wise, it's messy. So eliminating bigamy. The legal Elmi marriage ended via divorce in 2017 after she legally wed Hirsi in 2018. You got divorced in 2017 from somebody that you had supposedly been with since 2009, 8 years, which solidifies him being a citizen. So he can now apply for U.S. citizenship if he wants to or not, right? Because he was legally married to you. You divorced that person and then you turn around and go back to the first guy in 2018. Okay. So these are details drawn court records with no updates as of 2025, indicating any change in Elmi's status at the time. Okay. Now, so I said, I guess that's the confusion of marrying Harry C. a year after divorcing Elmi, which may be why people are looking into marriage fraud. And that's what I said. And it says you're right to point that out, where the confusion often arises. Let's clarify the timeline and why the immigration fraud theory actually, where the immigration theory doesn't actually line up with documented facts. And it's because the first person was, they say, is a faith-based. It was not finalized. So they did the license, but they did not file it. So even if they had the whole, what do you call it, ceremony, whatever, it wasn't filed. Okay. So here's the faith-based, which they're saying isn't a marriage. Let me see if there is. Okay. So the faith-based was not a legal marriage. It was more so common law. Now, here's my thing. Even common law technically are marriages that are recognized by the state, but there isn't a legal consequence. Okay. And I would have to see the laws of Minnesota when it comes to that. But they're saying it's faith-based. They're not calling it common law. Okay. Now they separated in 2008. She gets married to Elmi in 2009, and they get legally married. She faith-based divorced this person in 2011. That's not legal. There's not even a separate, and it said still legally married to Elmi. Okay, she reconciles with Hirsi. She's still not legally married to him. 2011, 2012, they're still rocking and rolling. Actually, they're rocking and rolling. to 2017, in my opinion. But then legally divorces Elmi in 2017. Okay. She's single again. She gets married to Hersey. She goes back to the first person to legally marry him. So, okay, now we can file this paperwork because he's good, right? He's good. He can file for citizenship if he feels like it. Then she divorces him almost a year later. But here's my thing. It was this timeline. You divorced him in 2017 to get married to him in 2018, like a month later. And then you divorce him, the father of your children, I guess maybe like a year or 10 months later. And you get married to the person you're currently with now in 2020. You were busy. Relationship wise between 2017 and 2019. And that's what, to me, it looks like the succession of fraud, in my opinion, allegedly, which people are looking at. Because if this person was her brother, it'd be like, why are you marrying your brother? There's no such thing as a faith-based divorce. You're either married or separated, which if you're married, separated, or divorced, right? And separation, you're still married to that person. So you still have legal obligations to this person, even if you're separated from this, because you're not divorced. You're still married. And it says, so there was never a period when Omar was legally married to two people at once. She wasn't. She was not. So the bigamy thing, or whatever they want to call it. What is it? I think it's bigamy. So the only overlap was cultural, religious, faith-based with Hersey, while legally married to Elmi, which is not recognized under U.S. law and does not constitute bigamy. But if any Americans did it, they would like, you're bigamist. You can't do that. But because it's faith-based, what does that even mean? Y'all's faith is weird. That's nasty. Okay? It's gross. And why are we recognizing that here in the United States? I'm telling you, people use religion for some wild stuff, y'all. Just wild nonsense. So why the immigration fraud claim persists and while it falls apart? The core allegation is that Omar married Elmi, a British citizen, 2009, solely to help him get U.S. green card or citizenship. Here's why that theory doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Elmi never appears to have obtained U.S. permanent residency or citizenship through the marriage. No public record or investigation has ever shown Elmi filing an I-130 petition or alien relative or I-485 adjustment in status. He reportedly left the U.S. and returned to the U.K. shortly after their 2011 separation and has lived in London since at least 2017, her divorce filings. They were separated just 2 years after wedding. Marriage fraud for immigration purposes typically involves staying married long enough, usually 2 to 3 years minimum, to remove conditions on green card. Separating in 2011 and divorcing in 2017 is the opposite of what someone committing marriage fraud would do. Okay. So no federal or state agency has ever substantiated fraud. Minnesota authorities, the FBI briefly looked in 2019, 2020, and ICE have all declined to pursue charges. The only penalty Omar ever received was a minor $500 fine from the Minnesota Campaign Finance Board for unrelated joint tax filing issues in 2014 and 2015. Where she put the wrong person on the tax returns and amended it. So in short, the timeline looks suspicious at first glance. Marrying Hersey just 1 month after divorcing Elmi is actually the moment she finally made legal a long-term relationship she had always treated as her real marriage under Islamic custom. The Elmi marriage, by contrast, was short-lived and produced no apparent immigration benefit for him. That's why most mainstream fact checks, AP, PolitiFact, Snopes, label the immigration fraud claim as false or unproven. The confusion comes from mixing religious and civil marriage practices, not from any proven illegality. Okay, so I guess there's a whole bunch of people doing spiritual marriages and divorces all over the country, and we're just not tracking it because it's a spiritual thing. Just saying. So, and then I asked what race Ilhan Omar states on her immigration records. Couldn't give me that, but based on her background, she was born in Mogadishu, Somalia in 1982. Omar is ethnically Somalian, which falls under the Black or African American category in U.S. classifications. As Somalia is East Africa and Somalis are of Pashtuk ethnic origin, this aligns with how she officially biographies describe her as a Black Somali American woman and the first non-white elected to Congress from Minnesota. And yeah, she's not Black. We're not doing flat blackness. We're not playing that game. But, you know, Grok doesn't know all that. And it's okay. We're delineating, and that's fine. But this is what's going on. So at the end of the day, unless this person actually tried to file for U.S. citizenship with it, which I investigated and heard the response from Grok, it's not happening. You know, could there have been another reason why she even played this game of cat and mouse? Like I said, to me, it looks messy relationship wise because you're going back and forth. Why did you go back to this person if you were currently married to this person? You weren't doing anything wrong because you technically weren't even married to the father of your children in the first place. So this person that you were legally married to, why were you even legally married to them anyway? That, to me, that becomes the question. Because you returned to the father of your children while you were still married to somebody else legally. So it's still messy. That's the problem. It's still messy. Y'all don't see it as an issue. You're talking about spiritual divorce. What, stop that. Just makes no sense. It just is crazy as dumb. But this is what we're doing. And this is why we justified what happened. So that's what happened. I hope you guys got something out of that because, you know, again, people are going to be yelling and screaming about that. But the bigger issue does still become her stance on Somalia and how she is standing up for another country, being a representative of the House in America and stating it is, you know, she's representing Somalia in the United States and using the United States to prop up Somalia. That's the problem. She is Somali in America. She's not an American who happens to be a Somali. Okay, that's the problem. Her loyalty is to Somalia. Her loyalty is not to America. And there is a denaturalization process for people who do not align with the Constitution and who do not align with American values. And there's a case that can be made for that because she's on several occasions, said that it's Somalia first for her. And Uncle Coolwater says, how does the government of America throw melanated Africans and Caribbeans into our Black American identity? It's disrespectful and it should not be allowed. They are not us. They aren't us. Absolutely not. And they use us. You know, they basically call Black Americans lazy, but then they would turn right around if it benefits them. They will say, well, we're still Black and Caribbean. No, you're not. You're Caribbean. And you're not even a Caribbean American. You're Caribbean in America. Because a lot of you, your allegiance is to the country you left, even though it's not helping you, it's not serving you. But you never say, I'm an American that migrated from the Caribbean. I'm an American. It's always, I'm a Caribbean in America. Where do your loyalties lie? Just saying. Just saying. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to get into this stuff going on with Christy Nome. See you guys on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Taking your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And Uncle Coolwater says some higher powers in Minnesota is always allowing her to get away with this foolishness. It's somebody. It's sad. It truly, truly is, you know, when you look at what she's doing and how things are going. But let's move on. Keep it moving. Now, this next article we're going to get into, this was actually brought up by Jasmine Crockett right before the Thanksgiving holiday. So let's check this out.
Has Secretary Nome been busy filming propaganda ads? She's also been busy cashing in on millions of taxpayer dollars. In fact, Secretary Nome has funneled millions of dollars to a company called the Strategy Group. The Strategy Group helped Secretary Nome win her campaign to become the governor of South Dakota. Corey Lewandowski, her top policy advisor, has worked with the firm. And the company's CEO is married to Secretary Nome's chief spokesperson, Mrs. Tricia McLaughlin. This is what corruption looks like. They're stealing money from the American people's pockets and depositing it into their bank accounts.
Okay, now, here's the only problems that I see with that. She needs to use the word allegedly. Now, she may be protected by the speech and debate clause because she's within the halls of Congress and they can say, hey, you know, some of the things you said are disparaging, but it's not going to be defamation, right? She never said allegedly. No one's under any investigation of what she's saying, and she's saying that she stole the money. That's an allegation. So, you know, as an attorney, I need you to do better, right? Because we definitely need to make sure that we can say allegedly, you know, this is happening with taxpayer money, and stay above board. That's all I'm saying. Stay above board. Okay. So now let's look into what Jasmine Crockett was referring to. So here's the thing. Lawmakers have called for a probe of how there was a firm tied to Christine Nome got a piece of $220 million in DHS ad contracts. And I know, because when I saw it, I was like, y'all got a movie budget? Y'all got more than a movie budget for government commercials? Like, what we doing? My goodness. So in recent days, 5 U.S. senators and 2 representatives requested documents from the Department of Homeland Security and a formal investigation into how a formerly closely tied to DHS Secretary Nome ended up receiving money from a $220 million taxpayer-funded campaign. Okay. So ProPublica, and that's who's doing this, they did a story this month that revealed that a Republican consulting firm had been secretly secretly working on ads. I don't know how you can be secretly working on ads when you have everything outside in the, but to any avail. So the company called the Strategy Group has long-standing personal and business ties to Nome and her senior aides at DHS. Its CEO is married to Nome's chief spokesperson at DHS. So obviously she knew these people, right, before she got in office. If they helped her with her governorship in South Dakota, and she takes the wife that's the CEO of the strategy group and says, hey, I want you to be my spokesperson. McLaughlin, she must be going under, I guess, maybe her maiden name, maybe not her married name, because her husband and her don't share the same last name. So you wouldn't make that connection. Now, the thing about it is the spokesperson, she recused herself from working with the campaign, the ad campaign in any way, but you can't, in my opinion, like you're recusing yourself, but you still have to talk about this. So I don't know who's the other spokesperson that's going to be speaking to this, but apparently she's not going to be speaking to it because she's married to the CEO of the strategy group. So under Nome, DHS bypassed the normal competitive bidding process when awarding the contracts, allocating the majority of the money to a mysteriously Delaware LLC that was created days before the deal was finalized. The strategy group does not appear on public documents about the deal. Okay. So the public deserves to know that government officials are not using taxpayer dollars to enrich themselves and their friends on the backs of hardworking Americans. 4 Senate Democrats on the Homeland Security Committee wrote a letter to DHS Inspector General. They called for the Inspector General to investigate whether DHS officials had violated federal laws and contracting regulations designed to prevent self-dealing. So usually there's like a triple bid process. You've got three firms bidding for it, and then you go forth. That's not what happened. Okay. And I'm trying to find the name of the LLC. So Nome and her aides, anyone associated with Strategy Group or Delaware LLC. Yes. It's called. All right. And moving on. Sorry. I'm just trying to find it. So that's pretty much where we're at, right? So I pulled up the previous story that kind of led into that one. So this was done on November 14th. So the firm tied to Kristi Nome's secretly got money from the $220 million DHS ad contracts. $220 million. Can you save us some money? I'm just saying, AI is magnificent. We could have AI'd all this. We could have put Kristi Nome on a horse with, the monument in the background. And it would have happened. We could have wrote the script. You could have been at the house. No, but we're on location, y'all. $220 million. That's a lot to me. But you have to consider, you got to produce it, you have to edit it, then you have to put it out market, and you have to pay for the advertising time. Radio stations, TV stations, online ad campaigns. So I understand where a lot of the money's going, but I'm just saying, how much did the production cost? But that's my opinion. That's the breakdown I'd like to see. So what I was trying to find is the name. So they went to the company running the Mount Rushmore shoot called the Strategy Group does not appear on public documents. The main recipient on the contract is a mysterious Delaware company, which was created days before the deal was finalized. Okay, so no firm has closer ties to Nome's political operation than the Strategy Group. It played a central role in her 2022 South Dakota gubernatorial campaign. Corey Lewandowski, her top advisor at DHS, has worked extensively with the firm. And the company's CEO is married to Nome's chief spokesperson at DHS, right? We've all known that. So it's corrupt. It's is the word Charles Teifer, a leading authority on federal contract law and former member of the Commission on Wartime Contracting in Iraq and Afghanistan. He said that the strategy group's role should prompt investigation by both DHS Inspector General and the House Oversight Committee. Hiding your friends as subcontractors is like playing hide the salami with the taxpayer. Schaefer added, federal regulations forbid conflicts of interest in contracting and required that the process be conducted with complete impartiality and with preferential treatment for none. And that's why I talked about maybe the triple bid process. Why was that overlooked? It's worthy of an investigation to ferret out how these decisions were made and whether they were made legally without bias, said Scott Amy, a contracting expert and general counsel at the Watchdog Group Project on Government Oversight. So the revelations come as the amount of money at Nome's disposal has skyrocketed. The so-called Big Beautiful Bill granted DHS more than $150 billion. And Nome has given herself an unusual degree of control over how that money is spent. This summer, she began requiring that she personally approve any payment over $100,000. Asked about the strategy group's work for DHS McLaughlin, the agency spokesperson said in an interview, "We don't have visibility into why they were chosen." This is your husband. Y'all live in the same house, but you don't have visibility into why he was chosen. This is why she has recused herself. Because if anybody asks her, I recused myself from it. They can have all kinds of conversations, doesn't matter. She recused herself. She's smart, not dumb. Since I don't know who they're a subcontractor with, but I don't work with them because I have a conflict of interest. And I fully recuse myself. She said, my marriage is one thing and work is another. I don't combine them. Her husband's strategy group CEO, Ben Yoho, didn't respond to questions. So this is her husband. This is the CEO of the group. And this is Trisha McLaughlin. They are married. Okay. The contracting expert says that agencies do sometimes require that subcontractors be approved by officials. It's not clear how much the strategy group has been paid. So nobody knows how much money has gone to the strategy group. They just know that she's using the strategy group. Okay. Just saying. Let's see. Just trying to find the name of this firm that they approved. Thought I had it in here. But yeah, this is the commercial. This is where part of the money went. This is not all 220 million, but this is part of it. I'm not going to play it for you because you guys won't be able to hear it. You'll just be able to see it because I didn't select it as something that you could actually hear. Because I was trying to find because it keeps saying mysterious LLC Delaware firm. It's called the firm is called Safe America Media and lists its address as the Virginia home of a veteran Republican operative, Michael McLuhan. McLuhan has long had his own advertising company separate from the Delaware one, but there's little evidence that firm could handle a 9-figure federal contract on its own. It's reported just 5 employees when it received COVID-19 relief money a few years ago. So how, where, and to whom Safe America doled out the $143 million is unknown. Any subcontractors hired to do work on the DHS ads are not disclosed in federal contracting databases. Interesting. So if they're not shown in the databases, how are you tying the strategy group to Safe America Media? I'm just saying, this is a question I have. but that's what they're investigating, right? So the office funding the ad contracts is listed as the DHS Office of Public Affairs, which is run by McLaughlin. Contract records show McLaughlin also married Yoho, the strategy group CEO, earlier this year. So they're newlyweds. So they just got married this year. All right. So that's where that stands. Now here's one of the letters from one of the members of Congress. Let me get that out of there. Let me see if you can see this. I know sometimes when I make these kinds of things bigger, it doesn't really go that great. But this is to the Inspector General. We write to request that you initiate a formal investigation into disturbing reports that the Department of Homeland Security improperly awarded non-competitive contracts to companies with close ties to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and senior officials, potentially in violation of federal laws and regulations designed to prevent self-dealing at a time when working class families are struggling to afford basic necessities and get ahead. It's a critical that the American people trust that their hard-earned dollars are being used to improve their lives, not to enrich government officials and their cronies. That, it's amazing how both of them do that, especially Democratic Party, because y'all are some wasteful people. But see, you propped up people that weren't citizens here and then want us to feel guilty about it. And you're completely wasteful all the time. But then you want to turn around and say somebody else is it. I think it's just something that they use back and forth on each other. I think it's horrible. So here are the senators that signed that letter. Ruben Galeo, Richard Blumenthal, Andy Kim, and then Gary Peters, who's the ranking member on the committee. Okay, so that's one letter. There's another letter here to the Inspector General. What was that first one? Yeah, so this was the first letter, and that was all three senators. This is another letter. So that letter was on the 20th. This letter is on the 19th. The right to request that you investigate a no-bid contracts awarded by Department of Homeland Security under National Emergency Authority. So, okay, so this is where we're at. Now, there's another letter. Right? I know we're getting so distracted. So over here, I says, what happened to Epstein? I know that's still on, it was signed by Trump. I want to say Congress has 30 days from the date that it was signed to release the Epstein files. We'll see. But if anybody doesn't go to jail, like, what are we talking about? Now, this is the final letter signed by Representative Thompson and Garcia on the 24th. So this was this past Monday. Right. And here, so yet another, and this is a letter addressed to Secretary Noem. We write again concerning Department of Homeland Security misuse of taxpayer funds, this time on an advertising campaign that includes campaign pictures of President Trump and his private real estate holdings and footage of you attempting to herd cattle. On November 14, 2025, ProPublica reported that on the second day of the government shutdown, you filmed yet another taxpayer-funded commercial featuring yourself and promoting an overtly political message. Alarmingly, the shoot was reportedly run by the Strategy Group, a Republican consulting firm that played a key role in your campaign when you were governor of South Dakota in 2022. The Strategy Group received a lucrative state contract after you were reelected and was being paid by your political action committee up until a few days before your department issued a $200 million limited competition contract that was secretly enriched by the firm, raising further questions of corruption and unethical conduct. Your close, confidant, and top advisor, Corey Lewandowski, has worked extensively with the Strategy Group's CEO, Ben Yoho, who is also the husband of your Department Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs, Tricia McLaughlin. So it's interesting. It's like, okay, because in one breath they say they don't know who's listed working with this this Delaware LLC, but then it's like it's the strategy group. Okay. So the question still comes back to who's wrong, right? Who is wrong? So, of course, I had to run it through Grok, and it was like, okay, so the allegations against the DHS secretary, as detailed in ProPublica article that I linked. So, a Republican consulting firm called Strategy with deep ties to Nome, including past work on her gubernatorial campaign, close collaboration, blah, blah, blah. You know this. So, as of December 1st, there were no formal determinations of a violation has been made, and DHS has denied any criminal activity. However, the story prompted immediate calls for investigation from multiple Democratic senators, right? And I listed Blumenthal, Peters, Gallego, Kim, Welch, and House members, right? Benny Thompson, Robert Garcia, and I will also throw Representative Crockett in there as well because you saw her video. So whose letters sent to the Inspector General between the 19th and the 20th of November demanding probes into potential self-dealing. These lawmakers cited concerns over federal laws and contracting regulations designed to prevent self-dealing, though they did not name specific statutes in their public statements. So they made all these statements, but they didn't cite statutes. Now, there was one letter that did, and I want to say this letter. Yeah, well, this is more like interrogatories. But there's no statutes stated. It seemed like somebody stated a statute. No, you didn't state one. Well, let's see if you did. Let's see, you came out, guns blazing. All right, we're talking. No. So nobody said what law you were violating. They were just like, hey, you're doing this. Like, this is really interesting. And this is why I don't like attorneys being Congress people. Because I'm like, how are you sending this person interrogatories? Like, these are totally questions. Did you do this? Has DHS? Nobody's responding to this. Like, this is DOA. This is dead on arrival. This is dumb. But hey, thanks, Welch, for wasting everybody's time. At least we know you're working. So anyway, federal contracting and ethics experts interviewed ProPublica have flagged the intertwined personal and professional relationships as arising major political violations of ethics rules, particularly given the lack of transparency in subcontracting and the non-competitive award process. The most directly applicable statute here appears to be Title 18 USC Code Section 208, the primary federal criminal conflict of interest law for executive branch employees. This statute prohibits government officials, right, from participating personally and substantially in any particular matter like contract awards that has a direct and predictable effect on the financial interests of themselves, their spouses, or close associates, such as a firm where a spouse serves as CEO. She recused herself, just saying, throwing it out there, she did. So violation can result in fines up to 7 years in prison or both, though prosecutions are rare and often require proof of knowing intent. So was her intent when she got this money to do this specifically for them? We don't know. Can't answer that question. So there is additional relevant rules. There's 5 CFR Part 2635, Standards of Ethical Conduct for Employees of the Executive Branch. This Office of Government Ethics Regulation requires recusal from matters affecting imputed financial interest, right? Like a spouse's business. Like, so say if this was Christy Nome's husband that owned the strategy firm and they got the money. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that, right? You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing it. And mandates transparency in contracting to avoid even the appearance of impropriety, right? Exactly. So McLaughlin's recusal may mitigate but not eliminate scrutiny in her office, still influence the process, right? Because they can still say, well, it's still your husband. Like, this just looks weird. So federal accusation regulation, FAR. These govern contract conflicts of interest and require complete impartiality in procurement, prohibiting awards that benefit insiders without safeguards like full disclosure and independent review. The bypassing of competitive bidding normally required under FAR Part 6 exacerbates this as limits oversight. So no updates indicate the Inspector General has issued findings yet, and Republican defenders, including Noem's office, have dismissed the probe as partisan. Okay, so I said, have there been any other allegations similar to this from anyone in past administrations? Yes, allegations of conflicts of interest involving executive branch officials, particularly cabinet secretaries and their subordinates, awarding or influencing federal contracts, grants, or leases to benefit family members, spouses, close associates, or personal interests have occurred across multiple administrations spanning both parties. These often involve non-competitive awards, lack of transparency, or personal financial ties, echoing the concerns raised in the Nome case. While prosecutions are rare, they have led to investigations, resignations, convictions, and policy changes. So below are some that pre-2025. So during the Warren Harding administration, Interior Secretary Albert Fall was accused of self-dealing in the Teapot Dome scandal, where he secretly leased federal oil reserves to private companies, including one tied to his associates, without competitive bidding, in exchange for bribes worth over 400,000, equivalent to millions today. This is one of the most infamous examples of executive branch corruption in contracting. So the outcome, Fall was convicted of bribery in 1929, fined $100,000, and sentenced to 1 year in prison. Okay. He was the first U.S. Cabinet Secretary in prison for crimes committed in office. So that's one of the biggies. Under Ronald Reagan's administration, Secretary Melvin Paisley accepted bribes totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars to influence defense contracts, including steering awards to favored firms with personal ties as part of a broader Operation 3 wind probe into Pentagon procurement corruption. The outcome, Paisley pleaded guilty to conspiracy and bribery in 1988, resigned, and served 4 years in federal prison. Another one that happened under Ronald Reagan, the Department of Urban Development, Secretary Samuel Pierce. He oversaw scandal where federal low-income housing contracts were awarded to politically connected developers and associates in exchange for bribes, bypassing competitive processes and inflating costs by up to 50%. The outcome, Pierce was not criminally charged, but publicly accepted responsibility in 1992. Several subordinates were convicted, and the scandal led to HUD reforms. So like they were saying before, a lot of these scandals happen, and then they just got to change stuff and update the paperwork and be like, stop committing crimes at the federal level. And that's the weird thing, right? You would think people would be a lot more respectful at the federal level, but no, absolutely not. Now, George Bush, under his cabinet, Executive Secretary Kyle Dusty was implicated in steering a $2.4 million no-bid contract for CIA interrogation facilities to his lifelong friend Brent Wilkes' company amid broader allegations of influence peddling, right? And the outcome, Fogo pleaded guilty to honest services fraud and conspiracy in 2007, receiving 37 months in prison. Now, during Donald Trump's first term, okay, Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, now she's married to, oh my gosh, Senator, I hate the name Turtle came up in my head, but the gentleman that falls all the time. I'll think of his name later, but anyway, yeah. Thank you. Open your eyes. Anyway, AI. Some of these things I actually lived through, so yeah, I kind of know a little bit about what's going on. You must be a young person. So anyway, so the DOT, and this actually did happen. Elaine Chow, gosh, I hate that I can't remember. She's married. McConnell. Sorry. She's Mitch McConnell. Thank you, sincerely, Lots. I was like, she's married to Mitch McConnell's wife. And this was a big deal. This really was. It happened. And they talked about it a lot, even Republicans. So she arranging DOT meetings with trips involving family members with Chinese officials to discuss port infrastructure, potentially benefiting the firm's China dependent operations while overseeing $1.5 trillion in federal infrastructure funding. The outcome, the 2021 DOT Inspector General report found ethics violations using staff for personal family errands, leading to a House Oversight Committee investigation. No criminal charges, but it prompted calls for stronger recusal rules, right? Because again, she was married to Mitch McConnell. She's the transportation secretary. It's a Republican. I think at that time they did have the House, Senate, and executive branch like they do now. Okay. And also, under Trump's first administration, Secretary Ryan Zink was investigated for potential conflicts awarding in a $300 million no-bid contract for Puerto Rico's post-hurricane power restoration. That one you all remember. The Whitefish Energy, a small Montana firm with ties to his former aide and local business associates. This came amid broader ethics probes into his energy policy discussions favoring oil and gas firms connected to his past lobbying work. So he was a lobbyist, right? So you got all these friends kind of touching eyes in and out. And they're like, okay, why could you use this person over here? Okay, so the contract was canceled amid scrutiny. Zinke resigned in 2019 before full resolution with no charges filed, though 14 investigations into his tenure were launched. Now, for the Democrats, we'll get into bills because he only had one. Obama didn't really have any. So during bills, let's see, Undersecretary of the Air Force, Darlene Druin, amid two conflicts in negotiation, a $23 billion tanker lease deal, inflating prices to benefit Boeing, her future employer, right, and favoring the company over competitors is a process lacking full transparency. So the outcome, Druin pleading guilty to corruption in 2004, serving 9 months in prison. Boeing paid $615 million in fines, and the deal was scrapped. So again, was it worth it? So crazy. So I said, what's the likelihood that there'll be any consequences for no, right? Because that's what we want to know. And it says that's in December, the allegations against her being a preliminary stage of congressional calls for investigation with no public indication that the DHS Inspector General has launched a probe. Okay, so here's some key factors. The probability of meaningful repercussions, such as a critical OIG report, congressional hearings leading to policy change, fines, resignation, and criminal charges, appears to be low to moderate in the near term, 6 to 12 months, based on the scandal's dynamics and historical patterns, right? So there's political shielding, investigative timeline scope, historical precedents of these other individuals and the speculation of a broader fallout. So the estimated likelihood, 70 to 80%, some form of OIG review, right, yielding a report by mid-2026 criticizing process flaws, but stopping short of personal blame. Medium political consequences like hearings, budget writers, restricting DHS ad spending, or a quiet resignation if Trump prioritizes optics. Low, criminal charges, fines, or forced ouster, given the lack of direct financial proof against Nome and prosecutorial reluctance and ethics. So I really don't think they're going to be able to get her unless there's some emails going on, right? Because, you know, with that new LLC just coming days before you do the deal, and they just so happen to subcontract somebody that you worked with before, it looks shady. It looks like, okay, we need a buffer, right? We need somebody to have this LLC so the strategy group can get the work. And the question is going to come back to who are the members of this LLC for Delaware? I didn't think about asking that question. Okay, so oops, I can spell better. Do we know? Because usually LLCs, okay, there was state before, registered in Virginia. With about 5 employees, experts have questioned whether his firm has the capacity to manage such a large-scale federal project, fueling speculation that Save America functions as a pass-through entity, right, for subcontracting work to others, including the strategy group. So, what is Oop, that I spell it. Did not spell that name right. That's what just. I think that's going to be more of the question. Like, what is their relationship, if any, right? At a small firm, has indicated professional relationship with DHS Secretary Nome through Safe America, primary recipient. Okay. The setup has raised questions. Nome's like a strategy group, but no direct personal or prior business links between McGill and Nome have been reported in public records or investigations. So, is there? Oops. Let's see. No. Okay. So far, but they had to know who the strategy group was. The only document that like both are embedded in the same Republican ecosystem. Okay. Registered and received money. So, in my opinion, more likely than not, in the circles that they were running in, it's like, yeah, this campaign is going on. And somebody was like, well, I have an advertising company and I want to get into, more government contracting, and I can set up this LLC so that you can do the work and I can subcontract it out to you. This is how a lot of these conversations happen. There's nothing wrong with subcontracting, But I think the bigger question comes into, because she's done work with the strategy group before and they have history, it looks shady because now you're being used as a subcontractor, right? I can see the conversation happening. Hey, you've got a firm. You can open, you know what I'm saying? You can open up a sub firm to your firm. We subcontract this out because you don't have to really list the companies that are subcontracted. You don't. You know, there's no regulations for that, but we can get this passed through pretty easily. What was bad is they didn't at least do a triple bid process. So again, it's processing, it's paperwork. But this is what's going on with the world of Christine Nome and DHS. And, you know, I guess for some people, it's like, will Trump fire her over this? I don't think so. I think she would have to do something else, you know, to make the administration look bad. There are definitely a few other people that I can see, you know, unfortunately getting the axe coming up with this. And that's how he rocks and rolls. And I mean, you have to do what you have to do. So with that, we are going to end the stream for today. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. See you in the next one.